Welcome to video 27. Before we continue, let me do a quick update to our project roadmap. I think I'm going to consider this particular item completed. We do have some more additions to add to our cart object, but items can be added to the cart, so I'll mark that as completed. And we also have the ability to remove all the products in our cart using the clear button, so I'll mark that one as completed too. So as the next thing, the thing that I want to cover in this video, I need to build out the display functionality so we can actually list the products that are in the cart within our page. In the last video we covered how to retrieve that product information, but now we need to display it. I'm going to be working primarily with my mcart.php file, the cart class, and specifically this createCart method. So I can delete this testing code, and the first thing that I'll want to do is I'll want to create a blank data string, and this is going to contain the string that's returned at the end of this method. So return data all the way at the end. After our data variable, I also want to create a total, and that's going to start off at 0. This is going to hold the total cost of all the items that are in the cart. With that in place, we want to make sure, are there actually products to display? So if products does not equal blank, and if products doesn't equal blank, we know there are products to display. Else, however, if there aren't any products, I want to show some default information, a default message. So before I continue any further, up here above the total, I want to add in our headers for this table. So I'm going to add data.equals, and it's going to be a list item with a class of header row. And I'm going to use the 4 column headers, so div with a class of col1. This is going to be product name, and then div with a class of col2. This is going to be quantity, then div with a class of col3, going to be product price, and finally div with a class of col4. That's going to be total price. Like so. So that'll automatically add our headers in place. Now if there are no products to display, I want to add a message to indicate that. So I'm going to do li. I'm going to add a strong tag, say no items in the cart. Close out the strong and close out the list item. I'm going to follow that up by adding a subtitle row, or a subtotal row, excuse me. So data.equals, and then li with a class of subtotal row. And this is going to hold 2 columns, so a div with a class of col1. It's going to say subtotal. Close off the div, put in the second column. In this case, I'm going to put the price, which is going to be 0 because we know there are no items in the cart, and close off the list item. Then we also want to add a total row. So it's going to be pretty similar to our subtitle row here. So I'm going to copy and paste, but it's going to be total and total, and it's going to be 0 as well. So let me save this. Let's do a quick test, see where we are. Looks like something's going wrong here. Oh, I know what's going on. We have items in the cart, but we haven't built out that actual functionality yet. So let me clear the cart first. There we go. And you'll notice we have a no items in the cart message. We have a total and the subtotal that's working properly. The only thing you might note is that these buttons aren't in the correct spot. They're supposed to be a little bit lower on the page. And that's because in the future we're going to be talking about adding shipping and tax information, and that makes this section a little bit longer, so that adjusts the button's height. But for the moment, let's go back and adjust our style.css. And this button rows class, rather than using a -101, I'm going to comment that out because we'll need it later. I'm going to make it -60 pixels instead. That should fix our height issue. Here we go. So those buttons are now placed properly. So let's go back to the cart, and now we need to work on the section where we actually have products to display. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line variable. It's going to be equal 1 to start. So after that, I'm going to add a for each, and I want to loop through each of the items, each of our product information. So for each products as product, and each time it loops we create a new item in cart. So data.equals, we're going to start out, we're going to open up a list item. Then we need to check whether the row is even or odd to determine if we need to add a class that will add our background color for us. So if line mod2 equals 0, and this mod2 basically divides line by 2 and it checks for a remainder. And if there's no remainder, then we're going to go ahead and add data.equals and class equals alt. There we go. And that'll add our alternate class and add the gray background color that we want. After that, then it's just a matter of looping through and creating columns for each of the different information regarding our product. So data.equals, we're going to close out the list item there. We're going to put div with a class of call1, and this is going to hold the product name. So we'll close off that div. And then we're going to do column 2. And then this one's going to be an input, because in the next video we're going to be discussing how to change the quantity of this specific item that's in the cart. So we're going to use an input to allow us to easily change that. So the input's name is going to be, start out with product, and then we want to add in the product ID. Like so. Then single quotes to start the string up again, double quotes to finish off the name property there, and then we do value equals, and this case the value is going to be the number of this specific item that it's in the cart, and that's going to be session cart and the ID, so product ID, like so. And then we finish off our input and we finish off our div. Then column 3. And then column 3 is going to have the item price. Close off our div. And then finally column 4. And this was going to be the item price multiplied times the number of that specific item that's in the cart. So I'll just copy the line above, Paste that in. And we'll close off our div and close off our list item. So there's that. That'll create the individual rows. And then after the rows are created, well, actually, two quick things before that. We need to add to our total. So I'm going to do plus equals, so I'm adding to it, and I'm going to add the total price. Like that. And then I also want to add to the line, so line plus plus. Now outside of this for each loop, we want to add the subtotal and the total. So I'm going to copy those, paste them in place. And rather than setting them up to be 0, I'm going to use total instead. And in this specific case, for the moment, the total and the subtotal are going to be the same, but in the future, once we're talking about taxes and shipping information, the total and subtotal should be different numbers. So let me save this. Let's go to our front end, look at the cart. So no items in cart, that's working fine. Let's add an item to the cart, and it looks like I have a misspelling. 142. Oh, I didn't copy it completely. There we go. So that should fix things. Yep. You'll notice we get an item added to the cart message, and we have this item that's now been added to the cart. And hopefully, assuming we add another of the same item, yep, you'll notice the quantity changes, the product price stays the same, but the total price changes because now we have 2 of this specific item that's in the cart. So that wraps up this video. Hopefully this was pretty straightforward. Join me in the next one where I'll be talking about how to easily modify the quantity of the items that are in the cart.